The now global Blancpain GT World Challenge makes its only appearance in Canada at one of North America's most storied venues, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. It is a venue of true global respect and attracts manufacturers and teams at the very pinnacle of GT racing. And the world's elite drivers feel the anticipation of this track in the very pit of their stomach. And for one team this year, Canada's SRO Motorsports and their factory Ferrari pilot Tony Wilander, they arrive with a target on their back.
We come to the series this year as a defending champions, so that brings us certain, I would not call it pressure, but a little bit different approach. People are measuring their speed against us, and I can see there's a lot of attention all the time what we're doing in and outside the racetrack. There are some tracks you just go, and I'm not saying on the out lap you feel like something's going to happen, but once you get to the rhythm, you get known to the racetrack, things just click.
The crazy fast Finn truly relishes its challenges.
This suits my driving style. You need to carry a lot of speed into the corners. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 4, you need to have the courage to go downhill flat out. You need to have a crazy approach to the turn 8. You just need to carry crazy amount of speed, and as soon as the car settles, go back on throttle. Something in the rhythm and the flow of this racetrack that suits my driving.
One driver pairing that knows the challenges here better than most are Toronto area residents Martin Barkey and Kyle Marcelli. And they arrived this weekend with the Pro-Am point lead in the Racer's Edge Acura NSX GT3, in which Kyle Marcelli is the pro-class driver.
It's fantastic to return here to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I grew up around this place. I spent a lot of time here in the early parts of my career running the Canadian Formula 4 Championship. But as of recent years, running professional championships such as the Blancpain GT World Challenge, we're here once a year. So I like to think that I'm on an equal playing field as the rest of the professionals here. It's great to be back. There's a sense of enthusiasm and, of course, a little bit of added pressure with friends and family here.
Well, now that you've heard about the challenges of this staggeringly fast venue, it's time for a true driver's eye view from North America's lone Porsche factory driver.
Hi, it's Patrick Long, driver of the 58 Wright Motorsports GT3R, and this is your Porsche track preview at CTMP, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Turn 1, as you can see, is a very quick fourth gear corner using all the racetrack here and then some. Turn 2, completely blind. You turn in fourth gear, bury the throttle. Ooh, a little bit of an adjustment there on the steering wheel. It's treacherous here at Motorsport. You're pushing very, very hard. Turn 3, it's bumpy here at the apex. You pick up throttle, and then you run sort of a rim shot, the outside of the racetrack, all the way on the exit. Up to fourth gear, up over 130 miles an hour. Completely blind turn in with your foot on the throttle. Fifth gear compresses here. Hard braking. This is your slowest section of the racetrack. Turn 5, A and B. It's imperative that you get off here at 5B. A little bit of steering correction again, working with the engineers on a loose handling race car in practice. It's imperative that you get off of turn 5 onto the back straightaway. As you can see, this back straightaway is long, it's ascending, it's a big climb up to turn 8. Top gear just before you peek over the Canadian Tire bridge and into turn 8 with just a little bit of a brake brush. Back to fourth gear and burying the throttle through 9. Third gear corner, penultimate corner, there's an overtaking opportunity here into turn 10. It's bumpy, you're fighting the racetrack, different surfaces. It's almost an oval, very, very fast and treacherous.
It truly is a speed bowl here. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the opening race of the doubleheader weekend for the Blancpain GT World Challenge America here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Rounds 5 and 6 of the championship. Greg Creamer alongside Calvin Fish, Ryan Marine in pit lane. And Cal, you heard Patrick talk about a loose car in practice. Well, they seem to have solved that, and there's some nice symmetry in those front two rows, huh?
They did. The engineers got it right for Patrick. He puts that Porsche on the pole position, but there's a symmetry to the grid, as you said. Look at this. It's two Porsches up front. Canadian Daniel Morad loves this track, knows it like the back of his hand, put in a sensational lap to claim that outside pole. And behind them, the two championship leaders. There's the SRO Motorsport Ferrari, Miguel Molina doing the qualifying tours, and right beside him, Rodrigo Baptista.
Key for that Ferrari, because that team, 2 of the 4 representations from the North American Championship for the Global Manufacturers Championship. Here's a look at the European drivers. 4 more, of course, coming from the Asia Series. 12 in total are accruing points for their manufacturer in the Global World Challenge Manufacturer Points Championships. And then the other manufacturer that's entered is Mercedes, and right now they have the points lead.
They do, and it's a strong one over Ferrari, and they're going to be led today by this car. Colin Brown, George Kurtz put in a great qualifying lap. Also Dial and Askew in the sister car for the DXDT team will be scoring points for Mercedes. They're trying to increase that lead potentially.
And that's going to make things very, very interesting indeed. And keep in mind, 2 different categories here. We talked about it. And as we look at the representatives from the Mercedes program, from the U.S. or America Series, there's a look at them. Here are the drivers from Europe, the 4 from the teams represented there. And, of course, 4 more coming from Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. And they've been getting the job done, having a fairly substantial point lead. So the Mercedes group doing the job they were hired to do to great success. Here is a look once again at how those global manufacturer points sit. And we talked about Pat Long being on pole. His car's co-driver, of course, a local resident of Canada. And even though he's some 4,000 clicks away, he says this is home track. Ryan?
That took the words out of my mouth, Greg. You might be 4,000 kilometers from home, but you are on home soil, Scott. What is the significance of this one trip north of the border to race here in your home country?
It's always special when you get a race in your home country. Being Canadian, I love coming out here. I've raced here more times than I can count, and the fan turnout this weekend has been awesome as well. But more importantly, we're excited about the race today and Pat starting up front. I'm really excited. I think that we can keep it up front here. FAF Motorsports coming on board this year with the Wright Motorsports car has been a real pleasure, and then Pat obviously did a great job in qualifying, so we're just really excited.
Quickly, how good is the race car?
It's good. It's good. You know, I think that we've got some tough competition, as we saw in qualifying too yesterday. But as long as we're up in the front, I think we'll be all right.
Good luck today.
Thank you very much.
Boy, he had, after that little off at the first race at VIR, his response in the second race there was absolutely superb. And there you see it once again, a look at that front row of the grid. Qualifying for the second race, which will unfold tomorrow, they didn't have quite the success, but nonetheless, well placed.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think he's talking about the pace of the Bentley. Alvaro Perrin put a qualifying lap together that was just mega, and they'll line up on the pole in that number 9 Bentley. Andy Suchek will start the race today. He had an ABS failure early in the qualifying run. They brought it into the pit lane. You're not allowed to touch the car. He went out and qualified that Bentley on the 3rd row of the grid without ABS, and all of the calibration for these race cars is based around every electronic aid working, and it wasn't, so it's still a really good lap for him.
That's one of the things when you have cars that are designed around downforce and aids, when one of them is absent, they don't necessarily have that mechanical ability on top of it. Pole sitter in the Pro-Am category here, another of the Wright Motorsports entries, that is Anthony Imperato in the number 91. Porsche doing a superb job. Interesting to me that the Acuras, which were so strong at VIR, back in the order just a little bit, and the points leaders in that category. We talked about in the Open, Martin Barkey and Kyle Marcelli for Racer's Edge in the Acura, outside of the top 10 in qualifying.
Yeah, but it's very tight. I mean, when you look at the top 5 in the Pro-Am class, they're separated by just 0.6 of a second, so it should be a really great battle. And, of course, their pro partners jump in at the halfway point in this race today.
Here's a look at the Usalco DXDT Mercedes as we have a look here at the driver who will be starting in this R-Ferry Motorsports Ferrari, Miguel Molina, again defending champion in this category from last year, and driving for a Canadian-based team. I mean, these guys, they're pros. They go to the front. They know what to do. But you have to think there's that, you're racing in your team owner's basically backyard. You better do the job.
They'd love to do it for Remo Ferri, certainly. He's very passionate about his racing, and they've had a lot of success. I mean, this combination only got together driving. They've been Ferrari factory pilots for a while, but only drove together for the very first time last year. Immediately went on a run, hit it off, like the chemistry, like the setup on the race car.
As you can see, the command to start the engines has been given, and as we are getting set to go, once again, let's remind everybody, a little bit new look to the Blancpain GT World Challenge America format this year. Races expanded out a little bit, and a change in pit stops as well.
Yes, there is. It's a 90-minute format now, up for an hour in 2018, and that pit stop will happen 5 minutes either side of the halfway point. So 40 minutes in, you can start to do your driver change and put fresh tires on, 4 mandatory change tires, and also refueling is done this year as well. So, and the maximum point in the race, 50 minutes in, you've got to be on pit lane at least, and then do the service.
So some of the global elites in terms of both manufacturers, teams, and drivers make their way out onto this legendary venue for this 5th round of the championship. They've been giving them 2 formation laps here, Cal, and I think 1, that's a pretty good call. You take a look at this track, you want to have heat in those tires and brakes before you really set sail. You
do. You need it immediately because turn 1 is a challenge, and you've got to be up on the wheel here. It's a total commitment racetrack, particularly through that first sector, as you can see, that ends on the exit of the lower speed corner. That's Moss Corner coming out of 5A and 5B. Then it's a dyno run. It's all about aerodynamic drag, not having any, and top speed up the straightaway, the Andretti straightaway, and then you get into that turn 8 that Tony Wilander said that is crazy fast, and a real technical section where you need good rhythm, good change of direction, good platform in the race car to finish it off.
And a ton of downforce.
It helps, but it's also, it really sometimes can depend on where you qualify. If you got the track position, maybe you'll elect to run with a little bit less downforce. Tire degradation could be a factor, particularly for those front row Porsches. We look at the race format there, as we said, 90 minutes, 2 drivers per team, 1 mandatory pit stop, and that delta time, the time that you have to spend on pit lane today, is 62 seconds. So you can't be shy of that, otherwise you will get a drive-through penalty.
And that's tight. You know, they always, and I've said it before, I appreciate it, they set those times so that it's doable, but it's not easy, and that really, truly puts the teams into this race.
Sporting.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
You absolutely nail it. You may be sitting still for 5 seconds or so, but if you get it wrong, you're going to be outside of that. That'll be costing you time and potential track position.
You make that point about the Porsches and the rear tire deg. With all that weight that right over those drive wheels, it gets that power down, it plants well, but it does take a little bit more of a toll when you're in these long duration corners, doesn't it?
It does, and what we've seen typically from the Ferrari that starts on the second row of the grid, it takes a while for them to come in. It's easier on their tires, so there's a double-edged sword in all of that. Porsche should get up to speed quicker, Ferrari not so quick, but will be better longer later into the run.
Got some onboard looks for you as well. This is one of them. I always enjoy riding on the R-Ferry Motorsport Ferrari.
You can hear the hard acceleration, the hard braking. You're just trying to generate a lot of brake temperature up through the calipers into the uprights, and that eventually gets into the rim and then into the tire itself. So not so much about scrubbing the tires, it's all about just warming them up.
Down through turn 2. Turn 3, let's take a look at the current situation in terms of the points. Top 6 drivers, obviously 3 driver pairings covered by a point.
Yeah, and it's quite unusual. When you look at some of the front runners, the 3 and the 58 both had a crash at VIR in the last event of the championship. The 9 had that pit fire, so they only got single scores. So it's really tightened things up, as you can see. Long and Hargrove a little bit out of the championship hunt right now, but they start from the front row. They've got a pole position and looking for great things here today for Wright Motorsports.
And notably, you look there in the 6th spot, that is a Pro-Am pairing. They have their own point scoring. That's how they lead that championship. But they're pretty darn well placed in the overall as well. It tells you the kind of season they've had. But again, not quite where they wanted to be in terms of qualifying here.
Well, it seems like the Acura NSX that was so strong at the last 2 events on the championship struggled here a little bit. Talking to all of the drivers from the various camps who are running that platform, said it's just a little bit edgier, runs a slightly higher ride height than some of the other championships that the car runs in, and that's affecting it here on this very high-speed circuit.
They're now starting to get to the track where the lights will go out on the official safety vehicle, the Acura NSX. That's pacing this field around, and instructions in the driver's meeting, as I understand, that about here in this track, you need to stop that weaving.
Stop weaving, start to form up. And it's a pretty narrow front straightaway here, so they want 2 nice columns. You're not allowed to really poke your headlight out of line before you get that green flag, and then you can go racing. But look for some side-by-side action through that very fast turn 1. Turn 1 is daunting at full speed, but when you come up to the line at a little bit lower speed, it almost makes it flat out through this first attack of that corner.
And you'll often see people, you can do it, work that outside line if they don't get pushed too wide, and you can go 2 abreast into that corner. All right, here we go, and it is Pat Long bringing the field around on his shoulder. Daniel Morad, again, very experienced here. Green flag flies. We are underway. Round 5, 90 minutes, and Morad, exactly what I was saying. Now he realizes that wasn't quite on, and a big win wiggle by Pat Long, and he saved it, Cal.
Wow, that was big. You saw Murray trying to go to the outside of Pat Long, then Long attacked turn one, lost the car momentarily. Morad was not in position to take advantage, however.
But he avoided getting into him, I think. I have to see what race car that might be off of, or was there a little tap? Was there damage to that left rear corner of Pat's car?
Look at Hensler up on the wheel early. He's in between those two Bentleys right now, putting the pressure on Baptista. On board here, you can just hear all that rubber flying up against the inner fenders.
Looking backwards from Baptista at Hensler. That's Moss, and now the run up the Andretti straightaway.
Sector 2. It's all about straightaway speed. Flat out. Great start for Brett Curtis there. Coming off a Pro-Am victory at VIR. In the real time, the bright orange and white Acura.
Yeah, he picked up a couple of spots. That's exactly the start he needed, as you have said here. Down and through turn 10. Here we go, first lap in the books. And after that big wiggle, Pat Long has been able to open up a little bit of a margin. And looked to me like Suchek may have popped his nose out on Hensler.
Suchek will probably be a little bit frustrated with that ABS issue in qualifying here yesterday, but the car is extremely quick, evidenced by his teammate grabbing the pole position for the race here tomorrow.
This is turn 3. It's where you start to float out wide, do that rim shot that Pat was talking about in the Porsche track preview. Fall down into turn 4, which is a very quick piece of real estate, and then into Moss.
Big compression there under braking too, and when the tires aren't up to pressure there, that drops the ride out a little bit further, so you've got to be careful of that on the first couple of laps. But these Pirelli P0 should be hitting their sweet spot in terms of the pressure and the temps. Look at this start by Pat Long. They've obviously got his tires in the sweet spot early. He's taken off from Daniel Morad.
Trying to build that little bit of a margin. And again, Suchek taking a look, trying to figure out a way by Wolf Hensler. Hensler's very savvy, not going to make that easy by any stretch, as we're back on board now with Molina running in third.
Hungry for the Wolf, maybe.
Exactly. Pat just flowing speed through turn 1.
He loves this racetrack. Remember when he switched to the Wright Motorsports team mid-season in 2016, or early in the season, should I say, and suddenly they swept here at CTMP. So the team and Pat Long love this racetrack. Look at the different approach there between the Ferrari of Molina and Baptista in the Bentley. He takes a much higher arc there for turn 3.
So quick down through this section of track.
Lunging down the hill, hard on the brakes. Just float through this corner. Just keep it nice and tidy right there. Keen on getting the hand straight. Hard on the power.
And Long right now has just set sail. Morad a little bit of a margin back to Molina. Things very close behind him.
Suchek looks antsy. Looks like he's got pace in that number 9 Bentley. Let's take another look at the start. Look at Morad looking to try and run around the outside. Long grabs it and then watch the big twitch. Right there, how sideways is that? That is arms and elbows inside the cockpit when you see it that dramatically from outside.
And something came off one of the cars right at that point. It was that piece of debris we saw, but in that replay I noticed that it came off and slid to the outside of the track. Not sure what it was.
These high-speed corners really demand a lot of downforce, so when you're in the wake of the car in front of you, sometimes hard to keep it really tight with these GT3 machines and the amount of aerodynamic aid that they have on the front end. You can see the bright orange splitter there on the Porsche. He chases down Baptista, and the little winglets, little fences there, trying to grab that air and push the nose into the ground.
Sometimes you actually have to back off just a little bit, get some more air on the nose of that car and let those tires come back. So if you start to push, those fronts overheat in a hurry.
It's a real delicate balance there, Greg, between sort of like pushing hard to try and get around someone and just basically rooting your front tires.
Oh, and again, Suchek so anxious to try and get around Hensler in the 24 Allegra Porsche.
He's got to be patient. Wolfie's done a nice job of defending. Nothing too aggressive, but certainly placing that Porsche in the right spot on the racetrack.
Turn 2, as Pat said, that blind approach, massive commitment down into that turn. It's almost a double apex. And you float it wide right in the middle of the corner, uncomfortably close to the track edge, and then try and diamond it back down.
It takes total commitment through this sector. There's no relaxation whatsoever. If your car is good, it's beautiful. If the car is edgy, it is a nightmare. You just have to get on with the program.
This big speed run all the way up and Freddie straightaway. This is where, at the top of the show, Tony Wilander was talking about the crazy level of commitment you have to have into this turn. That's turn 8. I mean, there's very little abatement of speed there until you jump on the binders a little bit here in turn 9.
Looks like a really solid race here. Everyone nice and competitive, other than the fact that Pat Long is way out front.
And as we're watching here, let's check in with Ryan Marine down in pit lane.
Yes, Michael De Quesada, part of the Allegra crew, of course, watching your friend and co-driver Daniel Morad out on track. He's never in need of motivation, but racing here in Canada, does he have that little extra bounce in his step this weekend?
You know, I think there's a lot of things that are adding extra motivation. You know, yeah, one is it's his home track, and he has a lot to prove, but we've had a couple tough races to start the season, and we want to show everybody that we can compete at the front. So, yeah, I mean, but no matter what, he's always motivated to win. You know, driving is just what he does.
And for you, you did a lot of your early sports car racing here in Canada, racing Porsches. So is it kind of like coming home for you to some degree?
Yeah, I mean, Porsches are all I've raced, and I started racing here when I was 15. I started racing in the Porsche GT3 Cup Canada Series, and yeah, I mean, I've raced many years here, and it's like a second home track to me, so.
You said that you're looking to turn your season around to some degree here. What ultimately are the results that you're looking for that would apply, that would count as having turned the corner in the season the way that you're looking for?
You know, I don't know if you can judge it by results, but I think the first thing we need to start focusing on is like having flawless pit stops and, you know, no mistakes, no tire failures. We just got to be consistent and do the job with no mistakes. So, and then hopefully that leads to wins or podiums or whatever that good stuff is.
Well, off to a good start on track. Good luck in your stint, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, they've certainly had speed this year in that 22, just haven't been able to convert it. Right now, it's two Wright Motorsports Porsches leading both of the categories here. Pat Long in the number 58, leading overall and in Pro, and Anthony Imperato in the 91, leading in Pro-Am. Great battle for the second spot behind a, well, not so rapidly anymore, but a still distant Pat Long. He was opening that margin up pretty substantially. And then Daniel Morad feeling the heat right now from Molina, Baptista, and as we hop on board now with Suchek, certainly Hensler is feeling some serious pressure.
Yeah, he really is. I think Andy has more pace in that Bentley than he's able to display with the Porsche right in front of him, but that gap that Pat Long has at the front has stabilized a little bit. On the last lap, this chasing pack were all a little bit quicker than Pat Long, so let's wait and see if those tires are peaked a little bit early in this run.
And sometimes, I mean, that's just simply the strategy play, isn't it? It's like, all right, Pat knew he had a good car. He knew it would be quick early. Go open up a margin. Once you get to that point you think you want, then you just start managing those tires a little bit.
You do, and it comes down to the starting pressure. If you start them a little bit high, they're going to generate the energy, get up to speed a little bit quicker, but then you can peak and lose performance. So depends how you want to handle it. Do you want to get that track position early and then just hang on, or would you rather just settle in and come back at the leader or the guy you're chasing in front of you?
On board once again with Suchek in the green number 9 Bentley from K-Pax Racing, currently running in that 6th spot. Looking at that white rear deck with the gold on top of the engine cover for the Allegra cars, 2 of them here. And look at Long through turn number 8. Some of the things that when you stand over there and you watch and you see the speed they come in and you think there's no way they can make the corner. They just breathe it a little bit and they actually go back to throttle for an instant. It's like the commitment that these drivers have at this level is just amazing.
Well, I think these GT3 cars are perfectly suited to these high-speed sweeping corners that we have here at CTMP. Just a quick mention to Ron Fellows and the management team here at the racetrack. The facility has never looked better. Each year we come back, it always seems to be improving.
They have done a great job, and in both a good vein and in a kind of uncomfortable vein. His young son made his start here in the Canadian GT3 Porsche Cup Series this weekend, running a gold class car, and that's great. Continues having another Fellows racing on the track is a good thing. The not so pleasant thing is it reminds us of just how old we are.
That is for sure.
But Ronnie's got to be mighty proud.
Well, that Porsche's keeping the Bentley at bay. I thought the Porsche may have a little bit more straightaway speed, enough to sneak by Hensler here, but Wolf has got so much experience. Long-time Porsche factory driver. And he just loves racing here in the States. Really made his name in the USA in World Challenge competition. Racing for the Farnbacher Lowell's team back in the mid-90s.
Yes, he did. Came over and I think he won the first race he ever ran at then Sears Point International Raceway, and everybody went, well, this is somebody we got to keep an eye on here. And has been phenomenal ever since. Big margin between the 6th place car, Suchek, and 7th leader in Pro-Am, Imperato, in the 91 Wright Motorsports Porsche. And again, it is the AM drivers of the Pro-Am pairings that start the first race. And I think we might just be seeing a little bit of evidence played out here as to why the pros are pros.
That is for sure. But looking up front, Greg, Pat Long's lead was trimmed by a half second on that last lap. He had almost a 3-second lead. It's now down under 2 seconds. So he is definitely backing up to the pack here a little bit.
Suchek, and then number 9, Green Bentley. Ooh, Wolf a little wide there through Moss. And Suchek, that has the yellow trim, the yellow mirrors and yellow trim. Some of the aero bits might have one of his better runs here. Yeah, he's close, Cal.
Yeah, and he's going to be getting antsy. You can see his teammate, Rodrigo Baptista, stretching a little bit. He goes to the outside of Hensler into the brake zone for turn 8. Curious to see if Suchek can do anything with us. We look back at Long in the lead, which is being diminished lap by lap here.
Still holds the fast lap, but has been off that for the last few laps. Curious to see exactly what scenario was. Suchek not able to get around Hensler. Continues that fight. And Molina now really starting to pressure Morad.
There's definitely a few tenths advantage in pace right now between this little pack that's going after Pat Long's lead. But again, Pat's such a pro, so much experience, maybe just managing things sort of like halfway through his stint. Long way to go before that pit window opens. Only 14 minutes into this run. He's got to get to the 40-minute mark before he has the opportunity to make that pit stop.
And you've said it before, the last thing you want to do is go out super hard. Yeah, you might build up a margin, but if there's a caution, then you've got tires that are not up to it when everybody else's are a bit better, and you find yourself in a real battle. And you talked about the savvy of Pat Long. Yeah, I wonder if he isn't just hit that 3-second mark and now starts to manage just a little bit.
Well, the other big factor has been so cool here this weekend, Greg, getting tires up to temperature. So I think there's a mandatory 4-tire change, so the co-driver has to put fresh rubber on. That's going to take him a couple of laps to get the pressures and the temps up. And that can sometimes cost you 4 to 5 seconds on those first 2 laps. So we talk about the undercut and the overcut on the pit stop exchange. If you stay out on the hot rubber, that is a much bigger advantage here than on a hot summer's day. So you'd want to extend the run potentially for the pro lineups to try and extend that first run. And their Pat Long's tires already peaking, may not enable him to do that.
That's a really good point as we've been watching Andy Suchek attack on Hensler for position. Ryan, what are they saying in the K-Pax Bentley pits?
All right, I have Thomas Blum down here. He is the strategist for K-Pax, and this race might come down to strategy. Your guys are putting some pressure on the guys that you're fighting, but you might have to be calling a shot that gets them a couple of positions. What can you do to help get your guys an advantage on the pit lane?
Well, Scott Jasmine and I are doing both cars, and so he and I will be talking, looking at our timing and scoring to see, first of all, if we'd come out in traffic and if we're going to do an overcut or an undercut. The guys on K-Pax, the pit guys, have been really good all year, so we've been able to get really close to the pit lane delta. That could be really key, especially how close everybody is. So yeah, we're gonna have to try to do something, but obviously you want to make sure you don't come out in traffic, and you know, see if we can probably do an overcut here, but we'll just have to wait and see what we're gonna decide to do. But we could go quick, we just can't get by these guys. It's just so hard to pass here.
You mentioned the pit lane delta and how quick your guys have been. Really, only a handful of teams have consistently been able to meet that delta and not go over. Yours is one of those. How important has the practice that you've been doing, training for those critical moments, been to your success?
Yeah, I mean, it's a reason, one of the reasons. Obviously, the car was super quick, great drivers, but one of the reasons the 3-car won the second round at VIR, and so, you know, hopefully we're not jinxing ourselves, but we've been good at it so far this year, and hopefully it'll continue today, but definitely going to need every tenth of a second to get out in front of these guys.
Thanks, Thomas. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the strategy, that's the challenge for those guys on that pit box, is to look ahead. And that's why I've always called this high-speed chess. You're not just looking at, you know, leapfrogging the guy in front of you. You're looking corners, laps, stints down the road here to figure out just where things might settle out at this stage. And you've got the little things that wrinkles that you cannot plan for. And then it's a matter of how do you simply adjust for that. And it's the teams that can react sometimes the best. Those are the ones that it really plays for here. If you take a look at this battle for the 10th spot.
Turner Motorsport team, look at Takeda all the way in the grass at high speed. That is risky stuff there as they make their debut in the championship this year. Returning after a one-off outing at Utah Motorsports campus last year with the Turner Motorsports BMW, but he just got in the grass. He kept it straight. It looked like he just wanted to be there, but I think the car just got drug out as he gets into the slipstream of the Mercedes. And suddenly the lane wasn't there any longer. Nice piece of driving, actually, once he dropped those right side wheels just to keep the car straight and not overreact to that by jerking it back to the left-hand side.
It'll certainly get your attention, won't it?
It really will. And Brett Curtis had that excellent start since that time till Bechtelsheimer has got around him, as has Barkey, who's having a nice strong run as we expected. The local man here on home turf has got that championship leading Racer's Edge NSX up into the top 3 in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, we mentioned they didn't get the qualifying they wanted outside of the top 10, but they're putting together a run now.
Brett Curtis there on debut at VIR, had the victory with Dane Cameron in the second race that weekend. Hurt his back here on Thursday, a weird incident into the brakes on for turn 4 with a big compression, just tweaked his back and has been struggling with it ever since. They try to add some padding and like an air pocket to the back of his seat to give him some comfort, but he's probably feeling a little bit of pain here on this run here today.
I went and talked to the team earlier in the weekend, and Brett's significantly taller than Dane, and so I said, is it the wheel and pedals or is it the seat that adjusts? And they said neither. And Dane said, I use a little bit of a pad, but Brett was sitting in the car and he said, yeah, take a look. And he was scrunched. His knees were up high. His, a lot of elbow bend for the wheel. And Dane said, I'm a little bit more stretched out than I'd like to be. That's the best compromise we can come at here. But clearly that position for Brett took a toll.
It does, but there's nothing like running competitively. So that gets the adrenaline going and you just deal with it and get on with the program. But definitely hurting a little bit. They're just trying to survive this weekend, try and get into this championship hunt, having missed the opening rounds of the championship.
Pat has stabilized that lead up front. It's right back to a little over 2 seconds at this stage. The interesting thing here is then you've got Morad, Molina, but now closing on them is Baptista. It's coming up to make that a 3-car battle for the second spot.
The Bentley is a really strong race car around this circuit. Long wheelbase cars should really enjoy these high-speed sweepers. Always seem to deliver good power.
Oh, I wonder if that off damaged
down a tire,
that
possibly.
right front, possibly, yeah.
Or did he just fill the
that's
grill,
it.
The grill up with radiator?
That
May
looks
just
like
be overheating.
You can't even see the grill. It's just, yeah. I think you're right.
Oh, that's a shame. Not sure they have a spare motor with them.
So
Gets a
in he
well off
comes.
line there.
Yeah, that's coming out of both sides, so that's a tough break. Making the commitment after running at Utah last year, and really enjoyed running with this team, running in the U.S. Championship, and they're very busy in Blancpain GT Asia, and these two drivers said, we want to do a program, and 3 more races after this, a good 4-race program when they have a break. But right now, they sit in pit lane, hoping that the engine is okay and that they can cool it and continue on. Pat Long, the margin, back up to just over 2 seconds. Morad continues to feel the pressure from Molina, and then Baptista, then Hensler, and that second white Porsche. It's got the orange highlights on the splitter as it works through turn 3. That looks like it's a pretty comprehensive overheat here,
That's
Cal.
a little toasty.
Yeah.
Could be a popular spot as cool as it is out there this afternoon.
All right, Ryan Marine right on top of it.
Yes, so we've got a lot of grass, as you can see down here on the ground in front of the car. Tons of smoke. You can actually feel the heat emanating off of this engine. We'll try and grab a word with Will Turner, the team principal, in just a little while and see if there's any concern about damage due to the heat to the internals of the car. Based on the way that the crew is reacting, there's not a lot of urgency at the moment, so it looks like this might be day done for this Turner operation, which is a real shame. They're a nice addition to the grid. 2 very enthusiastic Japanese drivers signed up for 4 races.
Yeah, and here's another look at it. When you go off at this speed with those splitters, that just turns into a ram scoop, doesn't it?
Yeah, just trims the grass blades off and just throws them straight at the grill at high speed. They just get packed in. Up front, you can see the gap there. Morad has got that carrot right in front of him. And there's nothing you want more. A, you want to get the best result and beat everyone, but you'd love to do it over a Porsche factory pilot.
As we said, Pat Long has been North America's lone Porsche factory driver for a long time, and there's a good reason for that. It's his skill set on so many different levels, but they've now created this young professional category, and Scott Hargrove, for instance, falls into that area, and Dennis Olsen, who's here running in the 91 entry. It's for the young up-and-coming drivers that are within that Porsche program.
Look at that car. Just right on the ragged edge there as he turns it into turn 8. He's not feeling the immense pressure just yet, but he's looking at the gap. He'll be told over the radio, and he can certainly see where Morad is in his rearview mirror. Molina just keeping it nice and clean. Nice consistent run for the defending champs from SRO Motorsports.
Morad just setting his best lap of the race. First time he's been underneath the 118s and got to a 17.9. Baptista now just takes fast lap of the race away from Long for the first time at a 117.792. So, and I was going to ask about that. This Bentley has always been good here from the day that it first made its appearance with Dyson Racing. It's always been strong. But the second generation car with wiggle there, he is pushing hard on the second generation car, but they've done so much to get the center of gravity much lower and much more centered. You would think it would be even more effective here.
Well, you need confidence at this racetrack, and I think talking to all of the Bentley drivers this year, this new gen car is just so much easier to drive, and so it allows you just to attack the corners. You don't feel like you're right on that knife edge in terms of keeping the car on the racetrack, so that should just give you the lap time.
We've talked about it on the air before. The one thing they said with all the improvements on that car, they thought they could trade off a little bit of downforce to not have quite as much drag, because it's got a pretty big greenhouse. You'd think that, here this is a track that's all about downforce, so there might be a little trade-off there. Meanwhile, we saw the problems for the Turner BMW. Ryan, any updates?
Yes, we did. So, Will, great to have you here, first of all. Sorry, we're speaking to you under these circumstances. Did you get an idea of what happened to get all the grass accumulated there, and then ultimately what is the diagnosis given the amount of heat we're seeing?
Yeah, so as you might have seen on TV, our driver went off and mowed the lawn a little bit, and he probably didn't realize how much grass was built up in the radiator, and by the time he realized that the engine temperature was going up, it had already overheated. So it's a lesson learned, I think, but he's still smiling because he was having fun out there. So we're gonna let it cool down a little bit and check the water level, and then put him back out and make sure the car's okay for tomorrow, because it's another race, and we'll try it again.
4 races is the program as it stands right now. How excited are you to be back in this paddock?
Yeah, so it's really cool. I think, as you see, the cars are nose to tail, so there's a lot of competition, and there's some great venues, and GT3 category and BMW M6 is strong. So we'll see what happens, but I'm really happy to be back, and hopefully we can do a lot more of these.
Thanks. Looking forward to seeing you out there tomorrow.
Thank you.
That was Naoto Takeda who was driving the car, and I mean, he was having a good duel with the 04 of Kurtz and the 63 of Eskew, and those are guys with a fair amount of experience in this championship in the Pro-Am category, and I think they certainly have some potential for some strong
finishes. They do. They could really put in some strong performances this year based on coming here for the first time. This is not an easy racetrack to get your arms around and to do it with pretty limited track time. There's a practice session here on Thursday, particularly for the bronze drivers, to get to see the racetrack a little bit further, but nonetheless, very, very impressive to see their performance this weekend.
And Miguel Molina now is starting to mount a bit of a charge in the back of Daniel Morad as both chase the somewhat distant Wright Motorsports Porsche in the hands of Pat Long. The R. Ferry Ferrari, you ride on board with Miguel Molina, and that is Daniel Morad. That is second place. That carrot dangling in front of him right now, and it just looks to me like in the last couple of laps, Cal, he has picked it up just a little bit and is getting a little bit more aggressive, maybe a little bit more anxious to get around.
Well, he'd love to get by Daniel before the cycle of pit stops here. Give the R. Ferry team a little bit more time in the pit lane to work with rather than having to leapfrog him. You know that Wright Motorsports, they'll be on top of their game. One of the more experienced groups in terms of endurance racing and used to doing pit stops on a regular basis.
And do keep in mind the last time that Pat was here, had a very strong weekend as well, but in 16 when he and Wright Motorsports made their first appearance here, I mean, he just swept the entire weekend.
Yeah, it was a great way to bounce back from some turmoil within his program for the year. See, it's an angry little pack. Everyone's keeping their nose relatively clean right now, but Pat Long can see that whole group coming after him, so he can't afford to relax too much. And we discussed it. Thomas Blam talked about the overcut in terms of extending this run. So if Pat Long believes he is in trouble, and he is in trouble, Pat Long slows.
Something has gone catastrophically wrong for him to lift that abruptly.
Tire, maybe. Looks like the left rear, maybe. See a little bit of porpoising there.
And he comes.
Just looked like that left rear was bouncing a little bit more. Sometimes you see an angle when they try and do a tight cut on the car to observe, and you may not have seen something before. It definitely looked like it was bouncing a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like it had air, but as you said, he's got to trundle down at pit speed limit and into the Wright Motorsports stall. The crew goes to work. And
left rear.
Yeah.
Thought I could see something. Not quite right.
Yes, but I don't.
Can't do any of the other servicing on the pit stop window, so this is a big, big penalty blow for those guys.
And then Porsche Consulting, Pfaff Porsche, back out.
He has to be so careful. He's got 3 hot tires, and when he gets into a right-hander, he's got to be careful he doesn't lose that left rear in terms of the grip level. So that puts another Porsche up front. The Canadian Daniel Morad leads. Canadian team right behind him with R. Ferry Motorsport.
Absolutely. Morad loving this. And, of course, last year in that rainy weekend here, he put together a pole and a win So he knows how to get it done here in whatever the conditions.
Well, he's a confident young man. He kind of burst onto the World Challenge scene when he held off Jerome Bleekemolen at VIR when he co-drove to victory with Ryan Dial for CRP. And he's another one of these young kids. He's not afraid to be leading. He loves the pressure. It's where he believes he should be.
And having that mindset is everything. If you ultimately want to be successful at this level, you've got to believe that this is where you belong.
Yeah, and he's up on the wheel right now. I think that Ferrari can float a little bit more apex speed than the Porsche right now. Say Miguel Molina looking really comfortable, and Daniel's really fighting that car.
Didn't catch what car that was, but significant.
You understand that may be the 91, so for Wright Motorsports, from leading both classes, maybe having drama with both cars initially. Tire issue, puncture perhaps for Pat Long, and maybe some other technical issue for the 91 of Imperato.
Oh, what a sudden blow here. And again, you can see Hensler in the second of the Allegra Porsches really having to defend the inside from Soucek, who popped to the outside trying to make some sort of a move. Basically, Cal, we've got a 5-car battle for the lead here. This is compressed to that level.
And that's going to really ramp up the intensity on those pit stops in terms of who blinks first, in terms of making the early stop versus the overcut where you stay out a little bit longer on those hot tires. As Thomas Blam alluded to, you really got to factor in where you come out in traffic as Brett Curtis tries to get out of the way, a very high-speed section of the racetrack. That's not good when you're on the outside. He's got to be careful he doesn't pick up marbles on his tires. He maintains the grip level when he gets back to racing here.
Noticing a pretty substantial bump right there. Really rocks the cars right about the time you want to start giving it throttle, so you've got to time that to perfection.
You do. Porsche's still putting the power down very, very well. More of the weight of the rear driving tires than some of the other cars competing against, certainly the Bentleys. We see some of the Pro-Am entries be the first to make their pit stops. Obviously, they want to get their fast drivers in the pros as early as they can, maximize their stint length. So once we get to that pit stop window opening in about 17 minutes or so, you'll probably see a host of the Pro-Am entries hitting pit lane first.
And watching as they went by Brett Curtis and looking at his lap times, he's a little bit off the pace, and I wonder if that damage to his back is taking its toll here. So you would expect him to peel into the pits at the very first opportunity, which is about 7 minutes from right now.
Yeah, this is a tough racetrack. If you've got any kind of physical ailment, this will really ramp up the intensity. So if he's got back pain, suddenly all of these high-speed sweepers, and particularly this compression right at the bottom here in a turn 4 is where he aggravated his back here on Thursday in the practice session.
So as you're right on board with the 61 of Molina and the R. Ferry Ferrari, currently sitting in that second spot and looking to move up one spot here before the pit stop window opens. Daniel Morad up to the pressure right now, fending off Ferrari factory driver Miguel Molina. And behind him, of course, is the number 3 of Rodrigo Baptista in the Capex Bentley. That is your duel for the lead here, and joining them at this stage, the second of the Allegra cars, team car to Morad is Wolf Hensler, and then the number 9 Bentley of Andy Soucek. And those 5 cars right now really have their scrap going, and they're coming up onto the back of David Askew at this point. Meanwhile, we have seen issues for both of the Wright Motorsports Porsche, and Ryan Marine finding out some information. What have you got?
Well, I checked with John Wright, who is, of course, the team owner, and just asked him, all right, what happened? And he said, we had tires that we cut on both cars right in succession, so that's why we saw both of them come to pit lane. They're not concerned about it happening again, so that's the good news, but unfortunate, both of their cars hit trouble right one after the other.
That's intriguing, and you wonder where that might be happening. What, you know, obviously there's a different load on the back of these Porsches. We talk about that engine right there, and, you know, lateral loads, etc. It looks to the inside just a little bit. Oh, and he was trying to get a little bit of a toe.
Yeah. David Askew there suddenly just got swamped there in the DXDT Mercedes AMG. Morad runs a little bit different line there coming out of turn 9, kind of uses more of the road to try and keep some speed up. Then he's got to just need the front end to transition back on to the turn-in point for White's Corner, the final corner on this lap.
Now they're a different team, but Allegra Motorsports running the same cars, the Porsche 911 GT3R. When you see a problem like that hit the Wright Motorsports team, does that sort of get the antenna up and alert as to, are we seeing anything that's similar?
It certainly would. And you would have to think that someone from Porsche Motorsport will be trying to liaise with the Wright Motorsports team, particularly when it becomes somewhat of a safety issue. They don't want to give too much away in terms of divulging performance secrets, but they will certainly be checking in with Wright Motorsports and maybe relaying some of that information further down pit lane to Allegra.
This quintet continuing its very strong run and have things fairly clear up the road at this point. Good run once again by the Gradient Racing number 5 Acura NSX GT3 Till Bechtelsheimer, continuing to impress Cal as he finds himself once again in the lead in the Pro-Am category.
He ran there a couple of years ago, but he said he didn't really remember the track that well. This is not one that you forget.
Yeah, must not have been a good weekend.
Must not have been a good weekend, and a very different race car, of course. So he said he's gradually getting to grips with it, and they're a team that kind of threw the setup out of the window last night, really weren't happy with what they had, and were checking everything, make sure they didn't have a bad shock or something on the car. So they did some resetting, talked to his co-driver Mark Miller this morning in the paddock area. So we're not happy with the setup on the car. Maybe they've just found the sweet spot. Till, as always, there we see him in the lead in Pro-Am, always does a really nice job.
He sure does. And you made the point, the opening races he did with Ryan Eversley as Miller had some conflicts, but open weekend for Mark, who's had a long association with Till, and good to have him back in the paddock.
He's been coaching him for a number of years now, and Till, British lad who's now based in the New York area. Pretty cool customer. Doesn't seem to be fazed by too much. And that's what you need around this place.
Absolutely. Does a lot of historic racing, and when we're talking historic, we're not talking, you know, recent historics. We're talking skinny tired Allards and the like, and you know, you run those in some of the old circuits in Europe and Britain. He's used to some daunting high-speed stuff with not a lot of grip, so these cars probably feel just glued.
Back in the days when drivers were fat and tires were skinny.
Good look there, Daniel Morad.
Balances look pretty good.
Yeah.
Daniel is really up on the wheel, and you can see he's wringing its neck, and the Porsche just bucks around a lot in comparison to the Ferrari. The Ferrari seems to be a little bit more of a stable platform compared to the Porsche, but delivering equal lap times right now.
We're a minute and a half away for that window opening.
Everyone will just be looking up and down pit lane. Who's going to react first? As we said, expect the Pro-Am entries to definitely be hitting pit lane early into this 10-minute window. Can't come in before the 50-minute clock, as you see it on the board, is wound down at that point. And 10 minutes after that, you at least have to be on pit lane. Not completed the service, but be on pit lane.
And these guys are coming up on the back of the 04 CrowdStrike Mercedes of George Kurtz, and you know more than anything he would like to at least be able to hang on and pit that car still on the lead lap and turn it over to Colin Brown, who's had a fair amount of success at this venue and is awfully quick, and give them a shot just in case there's some sort of an issue and there is a caution. Tough to do if you're down a lap, though.
It is. You stay on the lead lap, get Colin in, nail your pit stop. 62 seconds should keep you on the lead lap. Then it's all about Colin on cold tires, maintaining that lead lap position. You catch a yellow, and then it's game on. A lot of what ifs, but that's the strategy game you have to play.
Some of those what ifs will be answered soon, as we're just about into the pit open window. The pursuit, the number 9 Bentley, sitting in the the 5th spot, chasing Wolf Hensler. This entire group coming up onto the back of George Kurtz, and the CrowdStrike Mercedes. Here's that battle essentially for that 4th spot. They've dropped off a little bit for a while. They were glued to the back of the 3 cars that are battling for the lead right now. They have tailed off a little bit, and the pit window is open, Cal.
It is. Oh, look at that. Boy, oh boy, Morad's going to pit early.
And Kurt stayed out.
Yeah, this is throwing the cat amongst the pigeons. I think Suchek comes with him. Oh, no, that's Baptista. Excuse me.
No, that is.
Sorry,
Yeah.
read the grill and looked like a 3 instead of a 9. Must be some debris on there.
And he clearly was saying we're just losing too much time. Martin Barkey in. We'll be turning over to Kyle Marcelli.
I like this call by
Yes.
Racer's Edge. Nice strong rebound by Martin after a disappointing qualifying result, I'm sure, for him.
Boy, Morad drove an absolutely sparkling stint, didn't he?
He really did. He's so impressive. Just really smart young kid. Great style, and he's always up on the wheel and giving it 1,000,000%. Tire change here. Spoken to the Capex team this morning, said a good one is about 21 seconds. This is not a good one, struggling to get that rear Pirelli underneath the wheel arch. They said a good one means just sitting still for 5 seconds. They were not sitting still, so pretty close to the delta, I would think.
Completing the stop, back out. Molina now into the lead, stays there. And Baptista remains on track as well. To me, it's interesting, as Bechtelsheimer, what a run he put in. Brings the number 5 Gradient Racing Acura in. And we'll be turning it over to Mark Miller.
The team that admitted in the drivers' meeting the other day they got to work on their pit stop exchange, and that was a pretty clean one, even though they weren't sitting still long. A nice one by the group. Busy pit lane right now.
Behind them, you can see that George Kurtz indeed had that CrowdStrike DXDT Mercedes in, and here's Molina. In these pro-level cars, it's really, you know, the drivers can be so equal. It's just a matter of, it gives you that ability to say, well, yeah, we can pit early, we can pit late. You know, it's pretty much the same deal behind the wheel.
This is hammer time for both these drivers.
Yeah.
Molina, Baptista, you can see, is not letting him get away.
You almost wonder for Molina if, as Daniel Morad peeled into the pit lane, he didn't have a big grin appear on his face, because now he had clear track and can just let it fly.
He can, but he's got a very impressive young man right behind him who's thinking about getting his 3rd victory of the year for he and Max Soulé. So the championship leaders tied at the hip in points coming in here. They now run 1-2, extending this first run of the day.
By rule, you have to be in the pit lane, and that means just cross the timing line that begins that pit lane delta by the 40-minute mark. So they've got a little over 6 minutes here, and that the laps that we're seeing here.
Run a bit of a risk by staying out. There should be a caution. That would be difficult for someone who stayed out, because the rule says that the leader basically has to slow down and the rest of the pack comes back to you. So people who have pitted and stayed on the lead lap would basically be behind you as you get to your opportunity to pit. So it's a little bit of a gamble, but nonetheless, that overcut has a huge advantage.
Yeah, they opt to stay out one more time. Be interesting to see here. Baptiste, the last couple of laps have been quicker than what Molina has turned.
Significantly so on that last lap. He is really close to him. He's a quiet young man, so impressive behind the wheel. That's where he does his talking. Brazilian. What a dominant performance he put in to cap off the season at Watkins Glen last year. That was making a statement.
It was a big one, and Wolf Hensler brings in the 2nd of the Allegra Pull-A-Card Motorsports Porsches, and he hops out. On board goes Marco Holzer.
Good job by Wolfie. That was a great stint.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, delay, big delay.
Can't get it to start.
Oh, that was painful.
It was down off the jacks. And
yeah, and they were immediately waving at him, so I'm not sure if Marco was not quite ready to rock and roll or not. And then there was delay in getting life into the engine. Lost the big time, as you can see. Lost that track position. So Soucek, who had followed Hensler, his teammate now Alvaro Parent, is in front of Holzer, so that's what a slight delay on the pit stop can do. And he's got to get tire temp as well, so big deficit for the Allegra team there with that pit stop. How far will they push it?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Well, it becomes a bit of a situation. Once the early pit stoppers have been in, Greg, and they're achieving lap times equal to you, I'd say that's the time to come in. You know, because they're going to be on fresher tires and potentially going to be running faster lap times. So you've got to watch that, watch the delta.
Seen Baptista's closing up on Molina. And now that has been stabilized just a little bit. Molina finding some more speed here late in his stint. And let's see, does he push it one more lap? Does he bring it in this time? One more lap it is.
Yeah, they could maybe squeak too, but that'd be really squeaky. And if you have any delay or if you get taken off the racetrack on that in lap, you're going to suffer a big penalty. So I'd say next lap they'll be in. But looking at the clock, they might be able to do one more if they want to get really aggressive. See the different line there. The Ferrari just likes that earlier entry point, just able to hug the road, whereas the Bentley seems to like that big, long radius through that corner.
When I was out watching one of the practice sessions, the Thursday practice, same thing in turn 8. All the other cars took that.
Ooh, little bobble there by Molina. He was pushing hard and just lost the rear end there, just tried to float speed through Moss, and the tire wasn't giving it to him.
Nice catch, and didn't appear to lose too much here. Don't want to lose anything, but I was saying up into 8, that Ferrari just, once it turned in, it would just turn in a little sooner and just stay way tight to the inside. The other's a little bit more of a wide in, and here we go, both of them peeling off.
You can see there's a minute 55 to play, so they could have gone one more, but that's getting really risky. And plus the fact the guys who have made the early starts will be setting nice fast lap times right now.
So it'll come down to the execution of these crews on these stops and the pace of the others that have already done their stops.
The energy on these stops is intense. Just sitting on the pit wall, just waiting to go. You just want everything to be perfect. Just got to stay calm, go through your routine. See, a lot of these drivers will visualize before they get in just the sequence of how they do these seat belts together. This is a team that's had so much success, but I wouldn't say they've been the sharpest on pit lane in terms of that pit lane delta. Look at Parent really putting the pressure on De Quesada. And he realizes this is a critical time with cars sitting on pit lane. There goes Tony Wilander. He's going to get the track position, as will Soule, but they're going to have no tire temp. And this was critical for Parent. If he had gotten around De Quesada, he could have gone on the attack. And these opening corners, this next lap and a half or so, is going to be crucial for Tony Wilander. These guys are coming at them. De Quesada, he's got tire temp, as does Parent. Parent knows this. Thomas Bland will have told him, you will catch these guys. You've got to make the moves, though. These guys are going to get super aggressive here. Soule pinches De Quesada, allows Parent the run.
Oh, and it's a side-by-side battle, and De Quesada uses the outside, comes through.
And his teammate gets in the way. He's not going to give it to him. Remember, they're just separated by 1 point in the championship coming in. This has allowed Tony Wilander to escape a little bit. That's how tight it is. I think Brent had pace. If he'd been able to get around De Quesada, he could have been in a much better spot to leapfrog those two cars in front of him.
Brent just got the nose inside.
Difficult dynamic for Brent, though. He can't afford to take out the sister car. He'll look to the inside for turn 10. Brent on it. Total commitment.
Baptista squares to try and come back underneath, but he still doesn't have enough temp. Couldn't get to the throttle soon enough, and Brent's through.
Soule thought about it, but nowhere to go with it. Now he's starting to get the sweet spot back. Such a frustrating thing to see. You can't do anything about it, otherwise he's going to throw the car off the road. You can see him there as he tries to carry the speed through, just washes out the front end on that Bentley.
Soule is certainly quick. And look at De Quesada, he's closing up on the back of Wilander. And Wielander's getting to the point where he should start to get all the temp he needs in those tires.
Yeah, he should just be there, and that's good news because De Quesada is right with him. Great run by the two youngsters, Daniel Morad and De Quesada today. A little battle with Perrin will have given Michael De Quesada some confidence, realizing that he could hold him off there. Then he caught a bit of a break by Soule getting in the middle of them.
Yeah, Wilander now, that is stabilizing just a little bit. Soule. He has been impressive this year. Love his helmet as well. He was obviously a James Hunt fan from
yeah.
the Formula One era. That legendary Brit.
Throwback scheme. Nice guy.
Yeah, truly.
Total pro. One of the Bentley boys. It's a nice gig to have. First time for both Soule and Soucek to this racetrack. They had a conflict last time
They did, yeah. And then last year was just the sprint format that was here as well, so the second drivers wouldn't have arrived. Of course, this year there is no sprint in the GT World Challenge America GT3 category. It's all 90-minute Sprint X. On board momentarily with Perrin. And you'd mentioned it a bit earlier in the show, in the qualifying for tomorrow's race, Perrin just showed what Perrin's all about. It was a massive lap.
It was early in the run. They went with high tire pressures to start him with, and he just laid it down, but he also backed it up with many other laps that were good for the front row. So when he's on, Alvaro Perrin is tough to beat. That is for sure. Really found a great home in the U.S. with this K-Pax team. They totally believe in him. Jim Huey, the team principal there, just loves this man and the results that he's given him over the years.
De Quesada doing a very nice job in that Allegra Porsche that he took over from Daniel Morad.
Really impressive run for Michael.
Yes, it is.
Tony's taken off here a little bit. Tony has a front row starting slot for tomorrow, so this is good news for our Ferry.
And as we watch the number 9 of Perrin, right behind him, of course, Max Soule in the number 3, and the driver that started that car, Rodrigo Baptista, is with Ryan.
Yeah, let's check in with Rodrigo. You saw Maxime lose the spot to Alvaro just a moment ago, but still, both Bentleys running quite strong once again here at CTMP. The second gen seems pretty good here, just like the first one was.
Yeah, for sure. I think the track suits our car, so yeah, the car looks good, and I just think we lost a bit of time in the pit stop. The car went down and the car didn't stop, so yeah, it was a shame, but we're still on the fight.
How confident are you Maxime can work his way around Alvaro and perhaps gain a couple more spots?
Yeah, it's difficult, especially here in this track. You know, a Bentley behind a Bentley is even worse. because of the aero, but for sure he will try, so let's see.
If you are going to make a pass at this track, where do you do it?
I don't know. I think when the other car make a mistake, you don't need to choose the turn.
Hey, Rodrigo, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, he does point out a thing here. Yeah, this isn't necessarily the easiest place to pass on, so sometimes it just comes down to the guy you're chasing making a mistake.
Yeah, a little bit of traffic, a little slip, maybe some tire deg late in the run from one of the competitors, but you just got to be there, putting the pressure on, be in position. Willing to take the chances, because any pass here is typically high risk.
Wilander continues to ease away just a little bit, but De Quesada not allowing Alvaro Perez to get any closer than he has in quite some time. You just saw Wilander flash through. Number 5 of Gradient Racing, by the way, just updating you, continues to hang on to that lead in the Pro-Am category. Mark Miller behind the wheel now, his first start in a race in this season. There he is.
Yeah, and you know that Kyle Marcelli, who knows this racetrack extremely well, will be trying to chase down and get around this sister Acura NSX and claim the home victory. A 6-second gap last time across the line, I believe.
Mark has to be enjoying very much behind the wheel of one of these cars. They are just so fast.
Yeah, he said after qualifying, he said the car just wasn't underneath me. He said I could have maybe hung it out there and found another 10, maybe 2 tenths, but that wasn't going to help matters. He said we just have to relook at the setup. And it seems like they've made some changes to good effect, because Till had an excellent run in the opening stint, and Mark is backing it up here.
I think you said this is a team that said we have to sharpen up what we're doing in the pits, and they certainly seem to achieve that here as well.
They did. There you see the gap back to Marcelli. Carl, you give him a sniff of a victory, and he's going to grab it with both hands.
Yes, he is.
Carl looks a little twitchy there, and that's what some of the drivers have been talking about, the entry when you're on the brakes, just pinching the nose a little bit and loosening up the rear. Conversely, when you're on the power through the corners with the NSX, is picking up the nose a little bit, creating some understeer.
Perez now is closed in just a little bit on Morad, but more notably, Soule has tracked them both down, made up a fairly sizable deficit.
I think they may have got aggressive on the number 9 car with the starting pressures to give Alvaro the potential to do the undercut. We thought the overcut was going to be the way to go today, and they almost did the undercut by pitting Soucek early. Had bad track position, and Alvaro did an amazing job, but just got behind the Allegra car and now has stymied himself a little bit. Soule suddenly looks like he's got more. Oh, really wide there for Wilander. Woo! That was a little slip there by Tony. Forget a couple of years ago when Alex Ribero's in qualifying, having laid down the pole lap, I think it was, ran wide in turn 3 and destroyed the race car. So hasn't been a happy corner for Ferry
No,
Motorsports.
it has not.
Did Tony relate what happened just there? There's a little bump there as you're turning in, and if he was trying to attack the corner, just got out wide, and once you're outside of that blacktop strip, let's take another look here. Just out in the gray.
Yeah.
He settled it down. I think he recognized early that things weren't looking good and just let it go for its own little ride out there rather than trying to fight it too much.
Quickly would gather it up once again. And, you know, in that second of the 2 races at VIR, they were looking so strong, and then they had a late race tire issue and had a great fight back, but not what they wanted to see. And speaking of our ferry and watching Tony Wilander driving away, let's get back down to Ryan.
Yes, Remo Ferri is the R Ferry in R Ferry Motorsport. So great to see you back at the racetrack, first of all, and close to home. How significant is this event for you as a Canadian team?
Well, very much. I mean, it's always to be nice to be home. We have a bunch of customers here, a bunch of friends. I think it's exciting to be a Motorsport. Motorsport is a lot of memories for me. We've been racing here for years. I think it was great weather, great weekend. I think we very much enjoy racing here.
What are some of your early memories of coming to this track?
I started to come here as a technician back in the 70s. So I have long memories with this track. It's fantastic. We ran 223s here, ran 512s and so on. We've been racing here forever.
And you're making new memories today. Your guys got it done in the pits. Tony and Miguel have been fast, in a pretty good spot now. How confident are you feeling?
Well, it's not over until it's over, but right now it feels pretty good. I think we have a good car, so we'll see what happens, but I think we're in good shape.
Wonderful. Great to have you back, as I said.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
A true sportsman, Remo Ferri.
Passionate.
Oh, that's great.
The only way to put
Wonderful.
it. Yep, it truly is.
He's got to stay focused here. Can't afford any little slips. He'll be mad at himself. He's very willing to speak his mind if he feels there's any failures within the group, and I'm sure he'll be kicking himself a little bit there for that little slip in turn 3. Trying to keep him back on his heels a little bit.
Riding on board here, Alvaro Parent looking back at his teammate, Maxime Soulet.
Great respect by the two when there was the difference in tire performance when they did the overlap there, but Parent didn't force the issue, but made a nice clean pass into turn 10. Had to make it happen then, otherwise he'd be sitting where Soulet is right now. But De Quesada, just a really impressive performance, hitting his marks perfectly, no mistakes, not opening the door for one of the best in the business in Alvaro Parent.
Yeah, he's doing a nice job. And again, a track that Michael has a tremendous amount of time on, knowledge of, and success at, and that's always buoys the confidence just a little bit. Wilander has calmed things down once again. And, you know, right when you see Alvaro start to make a little bit of a charge close up on De Quesada, it's like De Quesada just finds something for a little bit, immediately opens up another 5 car lengths.
Right now, I'd say De Quesada has every bit of speed that Tony Wilander has up front. We're having a little technical issue with our timing and scoring system here today, so we can't give you the typical information in terms of the pit stop times and the splits, but just visually, it's not good. This is the sister car.
Sitting in the 5th spot.
Pit stop really hurt their ability to be in the mix. Hensler have done a really good job. Just that delay. Marco getting life into this Porsche really hurt them.
Yes. Because they were right in that queue at the early part of the race and were showing some good pace. Again, De Quesada, by the time they get up to turn 8 and 9, Parent has closed things up just a little bit, and then they get through 1 and 2, and De Quesada just able to ease clear again, and Soulet, it looks like he's picking the pace up.
Yeah, Soulet's car looks a little bit better, so I wonder if Alvaro's struggling a little bit. Maybe overpressured the tires a little bit to try and get that jump on everyone. Had to roll the dice a little bit and try something. I like what they did by doing the undercut and maybe going aggressive on their tire strategy for Alvaro to start the stint, but he's going to pay the penalty right now, pay the price. His teammate looks stronger. The 3 car just looks to be able to tuck a little bit tighter into these corners.
So right now it is Ferrari leading over Porsche and 2 Bentleys duking it out for 3rd, and an Acura NSX leading in the Pro-Am category at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. This Bentley duel, this 3rd spot here, looks to be heating up. Soulet tails off just a little bit on occasion, but it seems like when he can just sort of close it up almost on demand at this stage on Parent.
It's a tough racetrack to pass, though. I mean, you get any closer and you get that little aero effect, washes the air off the nose of your car, doesn't give it the bite that you're looking for. There's one thing about these GT3 cars, they're so quick through the corners because of the downforce generated by the aerodynamics, but if you lose any of that, it makes it tough to go on the attack.
And if you back off and get the tires back underneath you and you can mount an attack, you've got to get it done immediately or the problem just continues to reoccur. And that's why you see these margins accordion so much on occasion.
Bobble there by Michael through 5B, the second part of Moss Corner, just missed it a little bit.
You can see the margin Wilander has. And we were talking about that number 22 car in the Morad de Quesada pairing. They've had speed this year. They've shown it on occasions. A great qualifying run at race at Circuit of the Americas in the opening round. But just something seems to happen, and they end up struggling in terms of the results. This one would mean a lot, just in general, let alone the fact that this is the home track for these two drivers.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know, you just need to target a certain race. Like, okay, let's get our job done here, and you get a little bit of momentum, get a solid result, and just build from there. It's still early in the championship season, Greg.
Very much so, yeah. There's plenty of racing yet to go. Here's a look now at Scott Hargrove, who has taken over the 58 Wright Motorsports Porsche Consulting Porsche, sits now in the 6th spot, quite a ways back for the 5th place car of Holzer in the 24 Allegra car because of that early pit stop and tire change. I'm sure Scott will be a little bit frustrated. Home for him as well in many ways.
You're right, what happened to Scott Hargrove at VIR when he had that little moment into Oak Tree. Lost the front end, got stuck, couldn't go anywhere with it. 0 point score, but boy, did he rebound the next day. What a solid performance. Seen that before from him.
We have, yeah. St. Pete in last year, he came in, got that, had a big incident, ripped a corner off the car, and came right back and swept the weekend.
This has certainly tightened up. We
Yes,
talked about
it
Marcelli, give him a sniff of a win, and he's going to grab it. Well, he has cut what was at one point almost a 5-second gap down to about a 1.5 seconds. You see Miller there really struggling for grip through Moss Corner, really wide. Had to just backpedal there on the throttle and get it back together.
Kyle has been downright superb this year. An overall pole at the second round at Circuit of the Americas. Really on his game, as always, but I mean, I think he just likes this car. I think he feels really good driving this car.
And it's been a great performance by that little team led by John Meraki to get a GT3 car and go out and win. Just amazing. And they just got a little bit more experience. I mean, for Mark Miller, it's tough to come back into the championship mid-season.
Right.
He's been off doing his TA2, his Trans Am program, and he actually leads that championship right now, so he's been very successful. He'll also miss the Road America round of our championship with a clash that weekend as well. Just said that he committed to that program first, so that's typically how it'll work if you combine programs. Wherever the commitment was first, that would be the priority, so he has to skip a few here, but he's going to feel the heat from Marcelli here for that lead shortly.
Well, it's interesting because Marcelli and Markey lead in the Pro-Am category, 2nd place, and number 5 car. So if they can hang on, they take a big chunk out of that 15-point deficit they have in the points right now. It's about a 7-point swing here. Meanwhile, speaking of hanging on, De Quesada doing a solid job as we're approaching the final 20 minutes of this 5th round of the championship. And once again now, Soule really all over the back of Parent through Moss. Trent gets that power down pretty well coming out and immediately gets himself a little bit of a margin. Up through turn 8, this is 9.
look good. Look good during Morad's stint, just really keeping the balance. Doesn't look as comfortable as the Bentley, just in terms of the body language of the car. But the lap time is there, and most importantly, the grip is there.
That's true. The car seems a bit more fidgety.
Yeah, it's
for lack
twitchy.
of a better term. Yeah.
Bentley looks really comfortable, and that's what the drivers will tell you. It's a totally different animal to last year. The Apex team campaigned with the still Gen 1 cars. What a fun ride that is, as you plunge down the hill, hard on the brakes, then slow everything down a little bit.
Alvaro gets the power down so well. His line through Moss allows him to pull the trigger just that smidge earlier. He has closed it up again on the back of De Quesada. Alvaro had backed off just a little bit to try and get those fronts back in a position to take up another attack. And as we watch this great battle here for second, let's get down to pit lane, right?
Well, a story developing involving the number 24 Allegra car. Marco Holzer at the wheel right now, running in the 5th position. Marco reporting that it feels like there might be something wrong with possibly a cut tire. The team, though, is looking at the telemetry and everything looks fine. So they've had tires on the wall. They're ready in case he comes in. But as it stands, they're keeping him out there, keeping a close eye on the telemetry. But we'll keep an eye on it too, guys.
All right, thanks very much.
Tell you what, the other Allegra car, Dennis Olsen now behind the wheel. Never seen this racetrack before. Went fastest in the opening practice here on Thursday, and he's taken over from Imperato in the 91 machine, and he just laid down the fastest lap of the race at 16.6 compared to Wilander and Molina's best lap was 16.9.
Yeah, the only other
on the attack.
Dial had a 16 lap too, but Soule had a 16.8. But so that lap, as you said, for Olsen, that's why he's a Porsche young professional.
It's amazing. It's the pipeline that they have.
Truly.
I think it's with these, national GT3 championships.
Sure.
I mean, it's a great training ground for young drivers, and they're able to see and select the best in the business of the young drivers coming through. Brent's car looks strong right now. Definitely backed it off and having a little recharge here. Michael's up to it, really swings nice and wide there through turn 2, just widening that radius, keeping the speed up, changing his line a little bit.
As we continue to follow what's unfolding in the Pro-Am category, as Kyle Marcelli closing in on Mark Miller, Ryan has found Marcelli's co-driver, Martin Barkey.
Yeah, that battle is heating up. Martin, you've been keeping a close eye on it after a really good run of your own in your stint. Now, Kyle has just been moving up, and cutting that deficit. You think he's got what it takes to make a pass for the lead?
Yeah, by all means. Kyle definitely has what it takes. The difference here now is going to be actually making the pass. You know, CTMP is such a great track, but it's a really, really hard track to pass. And, Till and now Mark in the 5 car both done a great job in that car. So we definitely have the pace to catch them, which Kyle has proven. So now it's just a matter of, will he be able to make the move? And I'll guarantee he's going to try. So we'll see what comes.
And as a Canadian, Kyle's got to have some secret track knowledge, right, that he's holding in reserve?
Long before Kyle and I started racing together, I was out here, cheering for Kyle. I've watched him make a lot of moves out here. If I have to make a prediction, keep an eye on turn 8.
The season that you guys are having, how good does it feel to have been able to put this program together and have such success?
Well, you know what? It's been a great season. The Racer's Edge guys have been a great team to partner up with. And needless to say, the Acura NSX has been a great car as well. So a lot of fun, but there's still a lot of season to go.
And still a lot of race to go as well. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Martin Barkey, he's a humble man, but in the GT4 category, he's had a win at this track at the pro level as well. He knows his way around here.
He does. He's really solid. And on his day, he is super fast. He's got a great mentor and coach and co-driver in Kyle Marcelli. He believes in him. Kyle believes in him in terms of he can get Martin switched on and deliver the results as well.
And that is the battle for the lead in Pro-Am. It's just that close as Kyle has run him down. The only question is you know, Kyle finding the speed to run down Mark. How much has he taken out of those Pirellis? One of the nice things about this cooler weather is it does give the tires a little bit extra life.
I think he may be in kind of that little phase where he's just letting them cool down a little bit and then mount another attack, just observing where Mark is putting that Gradient Racing Acura on the racetrack and just thinking about strategy here. Mark's pretty aggressive. He's not going to give it to him. You can see there just the 5 car doesn't look as happy. You can see it just kind of bouncing around there through Moss Corner in comparison to the Racer's Edge number 80.
Well, you bring up a good point. The fact that sometimes you stop the attack and you study. You know, okay, I've caught him now. Now, how do I get by? And as you study, you drop back just a little bit, get more air in the nose, get those tires back and ready for, when you figure out the move you want to attempt, you've got the weapon to do it with.
Mark's car looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit of understeer coming off there. Moss Corner, we've seen a couple of times. He's had a little problem there, so maybe the setup is just not working through that low speed corner in terms of the shock setup.
Watch him through here.
Immense experience. Been to Le Mans a few times. He was rated as bronze for a long time, and he was getting a lot of calls because to win at Le Mans, it's all about in the GTE AM category. He's having the fastest bronze on the planet, and certainly Mark was recognized as one of those.
And right now up front, it's Wilander, De Quesada, Pirelli, Ferrari, Porsche, and Bentley. But this battle for the lead in Pro-Am is down to 2 Acuras. Miller continuing to lead over Marcelli as we're heading into the final 12 minutes of this 90-minute contest. Third in the Pro-Am category, by the way, the 04, that is the CrowdStrike DXDT Mercedes, now in the hands of Colin Brown, started by George Kurtz. However, a fair deficit at this stage. Another 7 seconds adrift of them is the car that's fourth in Pro-Am, the 63 of Ryan Dial. That's the Usalco DXDT entry. And then completing the top 5 is Dane Cameron in the number 43 real-time Acura NSX, having taken over from a hurting Brett Curtis. Meanwhile, back to the front here, we look at Wilander continues to lead in the Canadian-based R Ferry Motorsports, Ferrari of Toronto, Ontario, and Alberta, and Zekelman Industries Ferrari. The margin now, Cal, has come down a little bit. It's under 3.5 seconds.
Yeah,
it was
that
up
last
over
lap,
that.
yeah, it was a big one, a 6/10 delta there between Wielander's last lap and Michael De Quesada, and obviously the Bentleys are running similar times to Michael in the Porsche. So, okay, it could have just been a 1-lap deal. Let's see what Tony can respond. Like he was cruising away there for a little bit, and he settled back down, and now it's shrinking a bit. That's the sort of inspiration you want when you're chasing. If you just see that car just always at the same point up the head on this straightaway, but if you get a little bit closer, somehow you can just dig a little bit deeper. It gives you that inspiration to find those vital hundredths that become tenths of a second.
As we're heading into the final few minutes of this one, you know that at this stage now, Pirelli is going to seriously go into attack mode, and Soule will be right there with him, it appears. Here's Miller. Marcelli able to get to that point behind him at anywhere between a half a second to a second, but just hasn't been able to do much with it since.
See Marcelli just tucks the nose in a little bit earlier than Mark does. Is down into the bottom here. When you get down to Moss Corner, where I really feel Mark is struggling with the car a little bit, a couple of times it just seems like it looked a little cleaner. Yeah, maybe he's just been attacking a bit too much. He seemed to slow it down a little bit more there, and the car looked more controlled. You saw him run really wide one lap when he had to wait on the throttle. Another time where the car was literally bouncing through the corner.
Coming up on the 10-minute mark.
Kyle is certainly one of those drivers who we've seen make late race moves before. He's really savvy. A lot of experience, gets a lot of wins. He always picks up a handful of wins in whatever he's driving each year, it seems.
See Brent now down to car lengths. We're talking about the margin at this stage, and less than 1 as they come through turn 10.
Yeah, the Porsche looks pretty good through that final corner. I'd say he gapped Brent by about half a car length there. Just looked like the front end was a bit more positive than the Bentley. What a great view this is. This is where the world just drops away as you plunge over the hill into turn 2. I like the fact they put that green stripe around that. We talked to Ronnie Fellows a couple of years ago when they put that runoff area in, Greg, and I think it just defines the line a little bit better than just that massive amount of runoff area.
Well, literally, I mean, it shows you just what the challenge of that corner is. And of course, back in the day, there was nothing out there except guardrail and trees, so we go on to the back straight one more time, and Pirelli very close. This is as close as he's been, and he's got a draft.
Yeah, he's got a run.
Here he goes.
Look menacing.
Look to it, not quite close enough.
And he really looks like the Bentley is strong here. Michael just trying to hang on for this runner-up finish. Brent recognizes that by being ahead of the teammates' car, they will leapfrog them in the points, but he'd love to buffer that a little bit further.
Soule actually got through turn 10 better than Pirelli.
Brent seems to be struggling there a little bit compared to his teammate and compared to Michael in front of him. But we're talking hundreds. I mean, they're all so close. I mean, we're just trying to see if we can define a little advantage by one of this trio of really quick cars.
But that's the thing at this level of the game, is you have to fight incredibly hard to find that last 100th.
That's what it's all about. Absolutely. Trying to see a chink in the armor of the person you're fighting.
Oh, what a view. Up through Mossy, both of those cars in front.
Just see there, when we saw the onboard lab, I mean, Pat admittedly said when we saw the Porsche track preview that the car was a little bit loose, but it's a lot busier in the Porsche in terms of the steering inputs than it is in that Bentley.
Once again, you see Pirelli quite close here. Turn 10.
Get off that last corner. Seems like he has to over slow it a little bit more. Not bad though.
And the margin between Wilander and De Quesada pretty consistent now at about 3.5. So we go on board with Alvaro Pirelli. That Miller-Marcelli battle remains right about the half-second mark for the Pro-Am category win.
Be a brilliant result for Gradient if they can pull this one off, but never count out Kyle Marcelli. He is so savvy. Such a cool customer.
Yeah, this Gradient team has had 2 second-place finishes in the category.
Looked like an attempt at the pass, but it's really just a very different line that Kyle likes to run there. It dives it in. These guys, you can hear the tires squealing a little bit. Oh, look at this. This is tight. Pirelli really trying to get this position away from Michael De Quesada.
Well, he got up close, and then you got to turn 9. Lost that little bit of ground.
Pirelli's getting off there better than he was 5 minutes ago. He's figured something out.
A fabulous battle for the second place continues behind the R. Ferrari leading in Tony Wilander, and a great battle in Pro-Am as well. De Quesada, very wide rim shot down through turn number 2. Gathers it back up in 3.
He does. He uses all of the road then. How doesn't he? Totally legit. He's got to have 2 wheels touching the red and white curving or the white stripe, depending on which corner we're talking about. the track limits. Oh, little bobble there. Perrette down to the inside.
Oh, and a touch. Here comes Soule.
Soule's going to take advantage of this. Michael De Quesada gets dropped. Now it's a battle of the horsepower between two identical Bentleys up this Mario Andretti straightaway.
De Quesada, you wonder if there was any contact, how healthy that car is. Saw a little bit of the flash of the brakes for Soule, and Perrette works the outside, sweeps around the outside.
Wow. I thought Soule was just going to bury it in deep. Just a lot of respect between these two drivers. Soule, can he do the undercut of this front straightaway?
Looking at it, trying to get to the inside.
Michael's in.
Yeah, I wondered if
cut down a tire.
Suddenly looked to me like something changed in the attitude of that car.
Maybe that's what gave Perrette the opportunity that Michael was struggling.
Oh, what a shame. This young man, what a drive.
Right rear.
Perrette took that opportunity to the inside. Here on that onboard, it locked up for just a second, so.
Oh, what our Ferry wanted to see, because these Bentleys are the tightest competitor in points coming in. They'd like to add that win and the little pad with Porsche in between them.
Yeah, remember coming in here is the top three cars. Here we go. Let's watch it from this camera, Cal.
Yeah, Michael just struggled for grip there, and Alvaro tried to keep it clean. Not sure there was even a touch, to be honest with you.
Not either.
Good clean driving here.
Oh,
maybe right there,
yeah.
but nowhere for Alvaro to go.
Right, right.
He had to go for it. He couldn't park the car and wait.
Soule read it, tried to cut down underneath both of them. You saw De Quesada ended up running wide that left tire on the back edge of that curb as he went to throttle. As we go under 3 minutes remaining here.
Wilander's lead up to over 5 seconds. You'd have to think that these guys will just try and bring it home in these positions. Would be team orders. I mean, they're pros. They know what to do. But you could see the respect into turn 8 that I think if Soule was determined to get the position, he was just buried it hard in the brakes, into the brake zone on that inside line, but didn't choose to do it.
Yeah, and this is important for Perrette and Soucek, obviously, as they came in third in the points. They'll minimize there with the second. They'll minimize the loss to co-point leaders, Wilander and Molina, and move ahead actually in front of their team car at this stage, should it finish as it does. And let's see, Cal, looks like we're going to have 2 more laps to go here.
Yep. To wait a little bit longer, Ramo. Looks pretty calm. It's been a very smooth race.
Yes, indeed.
Nice pit stop today. Good driving by Miguel initially. Kept him out there a little bit longer, as they did with the number 3 Bentley. And it was just enough. I really think if Perrette had got around De Quesada, he may have been in a position to get around Tony Wilander before he got tire temp into that Ferrari, but it wasn't to be.
And you just have to be gutted for De Quesada after that really stellar drive he put on in front of one of the best in the business. Here's that battle for the Pro-Am, and it stays at about the same. You know, we've talked about Murad's maybe breakout race when he fended up Leakamall, and well, for De Quesada to hold off Perrette for that period of time in a car that just didn't look quite as quick. Those two young, that young Canadian and that young American in that Allegra car, they've put on some impressive drives.
It's a body blow, but they're young. They recover quicker.
That's right. All right, white flag should fly for Tony Wilander and the R. Ferry Ferrari. There it is. And remember those manufacturer points for the Global Championship. Well, Ferrari doing a nice job.
Understand there's no further action on the incident between Perrette and De Quesada. There you see it. Nowhere for Alvaro to go. Obviously, Michael was having an issue, and Perrette had to get on with the program. needs to hit his marks and bring it home. 2 Bentleys on the podium. Not a bad day, but the problem is the guys here in the thick of the championship battle with they're out front.
Last time through Moss. Rolling those big V8s onto the throttle. There comes Wilander and the 2 Bentleys. What a drive Tony has put on. Miguel doing everything he needed to do to give him a car in the right spot. Tony getting the job done, as he so often does.
Flawless, other than that little slip in turn 3, which he gathered up nicely.
Here we go, front straight. And Ferrari and R. Ferry win it home. The Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, that R. Ferry crew delighted, as you would imagine. Parent and Soule coming through and completing the overall podium in the Bentleys. Superb job for that team.
Allegra 2 cars in the top 5, but they were on the cards for more.
Yes, absolutely. They're enjoying this cool down lap and just watching for everybody else. Tony going to enjoy this one. He heard him at the very front of the show talk about how much he loves this place, how it suits his style. And then he gets the win here. That's about as satisfying as it gets. And for Mark Miller, 2 more corners to give this team their first win of the season, make up a boatload of points to the car that's chasing them right now. Here we go. It is Acura NSX Gradient 5 winning Pro-Am. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Miller and Bechtelsheimer. And Mark certainly doing a great job here, but Till, boy, what a job he did in his stint.
A great job by the whole group. I think they tweaked on the car, got a little bit stronger here today, and just amazing performances. Greg Gill congratulates Remo and the team. That was a fun one for those to watch.
Boy, wasn't it? And a shout out here once again to Allegra and Michael de Quesada. Even with that stop, they had such a good run going. He still ends up in 4th. So superb job with teammate Holzer sitting in the 5th spot. Take a look here at the provisional results. There you see that top 5. So good news for the number 22 of Morad and de Quesada. Pat Long and Hargrove with their problems still there, finishing in the top 6, and then Bechtelsheimer Miller with that Pro-Am win. And then Acura 1-2 in that category as well.
Another nice podium for George Kurtz and Colin Brown. George is really starting to feel the confidence factor come back to him. He had a tough year last year.
Yeah, he did.
And he's putting some really strong results this year in that CrowdStrike Mercedes AMG.
Yeah, he was looking sharp. I talked to him in the paddock, and I said, you really seem to be enjoying things. And he went, I like this car. I really do. He said, I just feel good in it. I enjoy it. And we've talked about driver confidence, always a big thing. And for the R. Ferry crew, this was a day in a race where things were pretty easy for them on the radio.
Tony should have been quiet.
Exactly. Just enjoying this moment here.
And he loves Remo Ferry. He'll be very pleased to provide the victory on home turf for him.
And Miguel rushing over, as you might expect.
Here's Remo. Tony Wielander's schedule is crazy right now. I think he's on about 6 straight weekends, and he's got about another 6 to go all the way through Le Mans. He's extremely busy. Not only does he race in 2 different championships, he also commentates on Formula One for Finnish TV.
It's celebration and hugs and comments are coming so thick and heavy that it's taken Tony a while to get that helmet off. So, but I think Ryan has tracked him down.
Yes, I have. Thank you very much, Greg. Let's get in here and speak with our 2 race winners, Tony Wilander and Miguel Molina. Tony, you told me earlier in the weekend you love this racetrack. You love it even more now?
My first time in U.S. was 2006, and who was the car owner? Remo. So, a great day. Everything worked out perfectly. Since Thursday, when we had that 30-minute practice, I felt the car was really good. We just kept
you know, we kept believing what we got, and we were confident that in the end of the race it will pay off. And what a great day for us, for Ferrari, for our Ferrari Motorsport, all the fans from Remo's dealership, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a perfect day.
Miguel, for you, how special is it to win, but to win in front of Remo, in front of all the customers, everything that goes into this?
Yeah, there's no better way to win, especially it's my first time here, so I'm really happy to achieve this victory, especially for Remo, because I know that he was looking for that a long time, and to win at home, at the home race, is always special. And actually we are really happy to make this victory for all the fans and for all the people that come here to watch us.
Tremendously done. Great job, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, and you know, obviously Tony's so well known here, but Miguel is making a name for himself with just being as quick and precise as anybody out there.
Yeah, and the icing on the cake is the championship lead solo.
Yes, that's a big one.
It's tight. It's really tight with the Bentley boys.
They came in tied, and that's huge. And let's get back down to Ryan with our Pro-Am winners.
Well, we got Mark Miller and Till Bechtelsheimer. You've been second a couple of times already this season, Till. You get the breakthrough today. Is it everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, we couldn't be happier. It was an amazing result, and Mark did an amazing job hanging on for so long. About 20 minutes with a car about 2 inches off his rear bumper, so incredible job.
And Mark, you were always meant to be a part of this program, but you had conflicts that didn't allow you to race earlier in the season. It seems like you stepped in seamlessly.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all, actually. You know, the last couple days we've kind of been scratching our heads and trying to find speed in it, and the guys just... I've been with this team for a long time, and in my absence, Ryan Eversley, a big shout out to him for filling the seat and doing an awesome job getting us on the podium. After qualifying, we were kind of scratching our heads and like, what can we do? And they spent the night just making the car better, and it was just easy to drive today. I mean, it's never easy, but it was awesome. And I saw Kyle coming. By the time he got there, I think he had used up most of his Pirellis, and I still kind of was like, all right, wait, okay, now push. And I think that's what did it for us. And it was all really thanks to Till's big lead. I mean, he's been a superstar all year, and I've watched on TV all year, and it was nice to see him do it again for me. So thank you.
Great job today. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
And, you know, you hear Mark say this team's been together a long time, but it's a brand new team, right? Gradient Racing. Well, it's what C.J. Wilson Racing used to be, who Mark raced for many years. So it's home.
This will be a special one.
Yeah.
I mean, to beat Kyle Marcelli in equal equipment is quite an achievement. So hats off to Mark there, withstanding the pressure, never put a foot wrong, and Till got the job done. Didn't have the best start, but then immediately went to work and moved that car up the order, giving the team the opportunity to do a nice, clean pit stop today. That was really a key factor as well.
Shorts and a sleeveless shirt. I love the optimism of the Canadians
group,
here.
aren't they? Like Remo said, a beautiful day. I'm like, it's mid-50s.
Everybody else here is walking around in sweaters and the like. Well, that was again just an intriguing race. A lot going on at various times, and around this track, as we said, never easy to pass at this facility. So patience was the watchword. But let's go back, take a look at some highlights. And at the start, Pat Long into the lead. A little bit of closeness right there. Big slide by Pat and a massive save, Cal.
Yeah, what a save it was. He keeps it all together and just took off at the front of the field. It's Porsche 1-2 for many laps here. This is a big moment.
Yeah, Takeda running wide and loading up the grill as he had most of the car in the grass, and that splitter just turned into a mow blade and packed it up. And then a problem for Pat Long, sent something wrong in that left rear, and then this move.
Yeah, Michael De Quesada having a little issue as well, technically there, and allowing the two Bentleys through as a drag race between them all the way up the Mario Andretti straightaways. You see Sule there just trying to fight to stay out of the back of the other Bentley.
And then at the finish, it was Wilander coming through, taking the checkered flag. The R Ferry Canadian locally based crew absolutely delighted to win at home. And that they did, and as you pointed out, Cal, now take the sole possession of the lead in the points. We get to watch it all unfold once again tomorrow when round 6 of the championship will unfold right here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. For Ryan and Cal, thanks so much for joining us. See you in a little bit.